Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. There are subjects that I don't like to linger upon. There are subjects that have continuous developments and important updates, like, for instance, the war in Ukraine, or when Zelensky does something stupid, or anybody who does something stupid of great importance. In this case, this video has to do with Epstein's files. I think I did only one other video on the Epstein files because as of now we are not further than we were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, which is Epstein has a list or had a list with some very important American and not only individual personalities, political figures, billionaires, professors, university professors, Jews, whites, and all kinds of groups, leaders. And we don't know more than that. We know that there are some pedophiles over there are some victims over there, alleged victims, and there's a list. Some people say there is. FBI came, Bongino and Patel said, no, there's no list and so on. But then some people, Dershowitz comes and says, yes, I know who's on the list. A congressman says, I know who's on the list, but there's no list. So there's no update and is not going to be any update more than I tell you right now. I have 1 or less than 1% certainty, or I bet less than 1 in 100, that we will find more about Epstein's list and who was on the Happy Island and so on. Why? Who are we to know that? And not because big people are implicated, but my point for this video, my thesis for this video is this. A specific country, I suspect, this is suspicion, it's just a scenario. A specific country on this planet and their intelligence services organized an operation of blackmail to these personalities. That is my belief. I don't know. I just woke up with a hard-on last night and I said, Jesus Christ, I think that's what it is. All right. If you're a baboon, you will focus on the names of the victims and on the names of the alleged perpetrators. This is the secondary, tertiary, and so on issue. The first issue is a country, and not only, that is owned by another country by blackmail. This is what I suspect it is. And that country has a grip on this big country, and this big country is paralyzed because that means pointing the fingers to all these perverts. That's what it is. And these perverts are more or less in charge of us and the media, and it's a blackmail operation behind the scenes. If you release the names and you release who was in charge, through Epstein. I don't think Epstein was just a nice guy providing services. I think he was an operative. That's what he was, an agent working for another government in order to compromise important people. That's ABC 1, 2, 3 spying. Or not only. You have a senator, you want him to vote in a certain way for a bill. You throw a little lady of the night in his bed, you videotape him, and he's toast. He's going to do whatever you want for you forever. All right. If you don't think that's ABC 1, 2, 3, well, I don't know. Go and watch some Hollywood movies then. All right, let me show you. And this is the reason why, in a shift, Trump says House Republicans should vote to release Epstein files. You know why? There will be nothing to see. Remember, I will release JFK's assassination files. And they took care of it. You know what I mean? Not only redacted, also you didn't find anything, but somehow they had them closed. You remember, for so many years they said, we're not going to release them. And then I said, you know what, we're going to release them. Why? Because you didn't find anything. They sanitized them. That's why they released them. Otherwise, they would have released them 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. There was nothing. Therefore, everything was sanitized. That's why they released them. In this case, the same thing. They will release the files. You will see nothing that you care for. You'll see. That's my prediction. Next one. Donald Trump says he doesn't care about Epstein Files getting released right now. Right now, he doesn't care. Why? Everything was already cleared and washed, I suspect. Donald Trump, he doesn't care. House lawmakers recently released thousands of documents from the late Jeffrey Epstein estate in which Trump was named several times. Okay, in what way? Not really something important. The president and the White House insist that the documents released is a hoax, meant to distract from a government reopening. Well, if it was a hoax, why didn't you release them then? Why now only? Because they needed time to say, you know what, we're going to do the same thing as with JFK. We're going to release them all, but all are not all, if you know what I mean. Next one. This comes from the Russians. U.S. House votes to force the release of Epstein Files. No force, because Trump says, guys, you know what? You can do it. You can do it, man. I don't care. I don't care right there. All right. The Republicans should vote, so nobody forced anything. It was just a game. Just the game. All right, next one. House votes 427-1 to release the Epstein Files, sending bill to Senate. Even if it goes through Senate, doesn't matter because it's a hoax. But undisclosed Epstein Files contain names of some 20 prominent people, congressmen. Like what? In what context? Remember, all these things doesn't really matter. That okay, there are some names. Like what? He called Trump for some donations. Nothing wrong over there. You know what I mean? They will be named to appease the imbeciles, but the names will have no criminal implication. Nothing. But I think there is more to that. Why? Because that imbecile in England got his royal titles or whatever he's got, the nobility titles removed. So must be something over there. And we got this guy right here. Larry Summers says he's deeply ashamed after new Jeffrey Epstein emails and will public emerges. Okay, what's the problem with that? Nothing. Nothing will happen. There will be some maybe low-ranking, unimportant people that are already dead who might be sacrificed. And they will agree to be sacrificed. Otherwise, a lot of things could happen to them. Now, what am I saying here? They will focus on the secondary or tertiary issues, not on the main one. And the main one, however you want to look at it, I'm going to look at it very empathetic as I look. All right, very empathetic, which is, some children under the age of 18, that's children considered in the United States of America, were allegedly sexually molested, abused. Now, they were not raped as far as we know, but it was, they showed up somehow. Does your daughter show up? Did she? Did yours? Did yours? Why not? Well, it must be that they come from certain environment. Oh, it's the Michael Jackson syndrome? Oh, we're going to let the children go to Michael Jackson's to spend the night over there. Why? It's Michael Jackson. My son is over there. Yeah, but you know that there are some people saying that Michael Jackson really likes to fondle children's, you know what I mean? And you still leave the child over there. Where were those minors' parents? Where were they? This is, again, how horrible it is if abuse occurred. I haven't heard of rapes. I heard of consensual kind of, even that pedophilia, clearly. And it was organized and all that. That's horrible for the victims and for the society. The problem is, this is a secondary, and wait, secondary issue. The primary issue is the country. I think it's more important than, unfortunately, I understand there's human beings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 50. They were abused by these monsters. I worked with monsters. I interviewed these kind of monsters. I worked in that kind of job. I know how it is. And believe me, I will tell you a story or more to see how women, how beautiful they are in this kind of context. I will tell you, I'll disclose. Direct experience, just so you know. It's not like, and not only one, it's a pattern. So, you have these guys committing this kind of crimes with about, let's say, 50 unfortunate children. 50. But the problem is the country. The country is going to be blackmailed by another country. So the country, I think, is bigger than 50. I know if there in those 50 would be all my children, it would be horrible. But not of the same importance of a country. However you want to take it. All right. So I have a problem with this, the blackmail, the operation. Yes, that's true. Those monsters and those children who just showed up at Epstein's house and they were recruited Maxwell. Oh my God, because they recruited your child from your high school. They want to say, hey, Gina, are you coming? Epstein, and you're going to meet, I don't know, Dershowitz. Or I don't know, Mr. What? I'm just giving an example. I don't think that's true. Okay, I'm not trying. I just threw a name over there because I know Alan Dershowitz's name was used over there. But I don't know in what context. I'm not implying he did anything or anything like that. Or Chomsky, for instance. Or Bill Clinton or Donald Trump. I don't know. I have no idea. My point is this. Those people to be recruited by those guys must be in some kind of environment. I'm not blaming the victim, but I can't be idiot. Now, let me tell you this. I was a senior investigator of abuse and neglect. All right, so I worked with this kind of cases very much. And I noticed this, that most of the cases, when you had a child removed from the care of the parents, the caretaker, or the mom, the biological mom, usually the biological mom with a boyfriend, or with a, stepdad for children. The stepdad molested her children, biological children, and when this was brought to her attention and the guy was arrested or was about to be arrested with a safety plan and so on, she would back the guy, not her biological kids. I think 9 out of 10 cases, the woman will back the fucker, not her own children. And she would agree, because there's a safety plan. You say no, you discuss with her and you say, well, the evidence suggests, or it's a preponderance of evidence that he might have done this to your biological children, and we have to put in place a safety plan. And a safety plan would be, you either take the children and you move out. That is, the alleged perpetrator, the monster, would not have physical access to the children or any kind of access, so he can, call them, threaten them, and all that. So she should say, yes, of course, I agree. How long is going to be the plan? For the duration of the investigation until it's finalized. And she would say, yes, okay, I will send them to the grandparents. Or I would say, I will send him away, which this was the main thing. You tell him has to go until everything calms down, and you stay with the children. You don't send the children away. You keep them. 9 out of 10 cases, she would keep him and send the kids away. And she would fight to have her own biological children sent to whomever, sister or aunt or grandmother or anything like that. She would fight that. So I don't know about these poor children who were victim of allegedly, of sexual abuse, what the parents did and what they're willing to do. A lot of parents send their children to the same spot where they already know, or they have already information that might be some hanky-panky happens, they sending again. All right, that's neglect over there. All right, not even neglect. It's how do you call it? I'm losing the terms now. It's not neglect because she already knew about the situation, or he knew about the situation, and nevertheless neglected when you don't. She just sends them over there with knowledge. That person should be also incarcerated, which is the parents. I don't hear anything about that one. I don't hear any of these victims saying anything about their parents. How in the hell the parents allow them, the caretakers allow them to go? Were they all, I don't know, with no parents? What kind of families those were? But nevertheless, as I said, these are secondary, tertiary issues. The guilty ones must pay. I'm more interested, personally, in the investigation about the whatever blackmail intelligence services operation conducted by a foreign nation through Epstein and Maxwell and others on our society. It's more important to me personally than the other one. I'm very much care for the other one, but I think they will tell you nothing about the second one. Probably they're going to have a few little baboons, take a fall or take the fall on this one, and then nothing else. They release it, if they release it, because you're going to find nothing. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.